Okay, we're on chapter 30. The title is More Than I Did. I lay in my bed for a long time. I hadn't seen it. I had no idea. I had a new eye, and I had started to see everything differently. I saw the flaws in my art. I saw a girl who needed a friend. I'd started to be able to read people's faces a little. I saw a boy for the amazing way he made those around him better, in spite of his disability. But I hadn't seen my own grandparents working so hard for me. I hadn't seen it. I ate every day, never really suffered, all the while my grandma was skipping lunch to try to save money for me. For my new eye. My own grandma. And I treated her like a side character. It must have broken her heart when I wouldn't draw after all she sacrificed. I rolled over. What else wasn't I seeing? Like Mikkel couldn't see that having a mom in pajamas was just fine. Like I was embarrassed about my grandparents all of the time, but I didn't need to be. Mom. My mom was another story. Grandma and Grandpa tried so hard to help me, but my mom hadn't done hardly anything. When she actually visited, it was okay. It was nice enough. But it had been months. A lot of texted promises, but she hadn't come through. I had completely stopped answering her texts. She didn't deserve it, unless there was something else I hadn't seen. I tried really hard to think about my mom and what I was missing. There was a saying in comics that every character, big or small, is a hero in their own story, even the villains. Commissioner Gordon puts his life on the line for the citizens of Gotham City. Magneto wants the best for the mutants. What would the story look like if my mom was the hero? I didn't know. But Grandma, she really was a hero, and I hadn't seen it. Completely missed it. Something inside me was glad that she wanted me to draw, to try. I hated it, but I loved it too. She somehow thought I might win something, that I was good enough. She believed in me more than I did. So did Grandpa. They believed in me more than I believed in myself. More. And I needed that. Mikkel was the same way. I thought of her insisting that I draw. I thought of her reaction when she'd read my comic. She believed in me too. Danny was the same way for Mikkel. He thought her songs were fantastic. I was that way for Mikkel, but she couldn't see it. She was the one with vision problems there. She couldn't see her own talent. How seriously cool she was just being herself. Danny and I could see it, but she couldn't. I still felt terrible that her audition had gone so bad. She was so talented, and she tried so hard. Just being in that room and getting up on the stage was more than she'd ever done before. But she was so nervous, so anxious, she couldn't do it. I wish there was a way I could. All of a sudden, I had an idea. Maybe everyone needed someone who believed in them more than they did. I couldn't wait to talk to Mikkel, but first I moved over to my desk and pulled out a page. I clenched my eyes shut for a moment. No one expected a 13-year-old to win this contest. I didn't expect it anymore either, and maybe I wouldn't shatter anyone's expectations, but I could at least finish what I'd started. Chapter 31. Invincible. I'm not going to try out again, Mikkel said. Even if I wanted to, the auditions are over. Thankfully, she had agreed to meet me at the plant cave after school. I reached into my portfolio case and handed her some pages. I scanned it and sent it in this morning, I said. I'd hardly slept the night before getting it done. You did? Even with your eye problems? I had told her about the corneal rejection and the drops. Grandma said my eye was looking better, but I wasn't sure. It was really irritated. I nodded. She looked up at me, then down at the papers. It's not good enough, I said, but I finished. She knew what I was doing, trying to persuade her, but she looked at them anyway. Squint stepped out into the open, alone. He knew what he was going to face. He knew his chances were next to nothing, but he had to try. He had spent all night tracking down Gun and the others. They hadn't stayed in the metallic castle. That place had been compromised. Thankfully, Diamond had a few hints as to where they might have gone, and he found them here on a small island in the northern sea. Waves dashed against the bottom of the cliffs, but the top rose to a fairly barren plateau the size of a small town. A building chiseled into the cliffside must be where they were keeping the Empress. But Squint wasn't going in. He had a plan. "Centurions!" Squint screamed. "Wherever you go, I will find you!" He pulled out his daggers and sliced the edges of the cliffs into the water below. "Come and face me!" And then he waited in the center of the plateau, the waves crashing so high they nearly met the cliff tops, until 4 people floated above him, riding on their capes, blue, yellow, green, and white. Gun, the large boy with the blue cape, landed first on one corner of the plateau. "You shouldn't have come here, Squint," he yelled over the waves. "You couldn't handle 2 of us. What makes you think you'll be able to handle all 4? He raised his fire bazooka. Traz leapt off his green cape and punched a boulder into the ground. "I like the patch," Traz said. "Were you hoping we would take out the other eye, too?" Lash, with her yellow cape and red hair, glided to the ground. She pulled out her laser whips, slinging them over her head in wide arcs and curls. "Sorry I missed you last time, Squint. I won't miss you today." She whipped a branch off a nearby tree, and with surprising accuracy, and Madame Cool leapt off her white cape, landing nimbly on the ground in the other corner. "I hope you weren't looking for a warm welcome." She unsheathed 2 long blades of ice and swung them, a barrage of icicles shooting out at Squint. Squint dove to the ground, letting the attack pass over him. He couldn't see it yet, but he had a theory that both Lash and Madame Cool would have dark scales growing on the backs of their necks as well. Squint had found an old scroll that mentioned an ancient magic that brought darkness into people, and scales showed the darkness's growth. Not only were these trained supernatural soldiers, but likely supernatural soldiers heightened by darkness. "Where's your cape?" Gun asked. "Or did you not care about being bulletproof when you came?" He fired, Squint leaping to the side. "I must have forgotten it," Squint said, flipping back onto his feet. He moved his head from side to side, trying to make sure no one could get too far to his right where he couldn't see. They were all there, Gun with his fireball, bazooka, Traz with his boulder gloves, Lash with her laser whips, and Madame Cool with her icy blasts. Comic rule, endings have to be epic. With a synchronized attack, Squint's old friends blasted at him. He shot with his light daggers, jumped and weaved, trying to stay alive. He curled over a fireball and ducked under icicles, while slicing a boulder in half. Comic book rule. Comic book heroes can do things that would be impossible to do in real life, but we all love them and want them to, so it's fine. "Give up, Squint," Gun shouted, ready to fire again. "You don't belong with us." Squint didn't answer. "Watch out for his dog," Traz said. "Unless we lucked out and he's dead, he'll be around here somewhere." A swish of red and Traz was hurled to the side. "I think you should look out for more than this dog." It was Diamond, flying in on Squint's cape. Squint smiled. It felt so good not to be alone. Diamond's attack split the group. Gun and Madame Cool turned on her, while Lash and a recovering Traz went after Squint. Thankfully, his cape came to him. Diamond already had her impenetrable casing. More blazes and shouts. "Just hold out," Squint told himself. "For the plan to work, we just have to hold out." But eventually, the other Centurions were too much. When dodging a whip, Traz caught Squint with a boulder again. Before he could recover, Lash stole a dagger with her whip. Squint saw the scales on her neck, but knowing his theory might be confirmed, he couldn't help him now. Diamond fought hard, eventually took a blast of icicles on the left side of her body, and when a fireball hit her, the unthinkable happened. Crack! Her hard diamond exterior fractured and a huge section of it fell to the ground. There she was, her light brown face exposed and nearly half of her body in a wetsuit no longer protected. She wasn't as invincible as she thought. With enough force, Gunn said, even diamonds can be broken. He raised his fire bazooka. Squint raced to save Diamond, but took a boulder to the back, sending his last dagger flying. Another boulder pinned his cape to the ground. No bulletproof cape, no daggers. 4 enemies, and a friend in terrible danger. Ah! Squint took a whip across his side and back. Gunn leveled his bazooka at the half-broken Diamond. No! Squint screamed, and then everything changed. Light blasted from beneath Squint's eye patch, a huge, thick stream of it. The light pummeled Gunn, throttling him to near the edge of the cliff. What was that? Traz asked, whirling around. Squint didn't know, but he didn't stop to ask questions. He screamed again, but this time light blasted out of both his eyes and slammed into Traz. What was happening? All of the Centurions focused on him, but the light wouldn't stop. Squint felt it run down his arms, and he shot it out his fingers, then again out his other hand. Light was pouring out of him in powerful streams. Each time one of the Centurions tried to mount a counterattack, Squint pummeled him with the light. It was 4-on-1, but the one was winning, until Traz took another shot, letting Lash sneak up on Squint from behind. She whipped around his neck, but then Lash went down. Squint turned to see Diamond still fighting, even without all of her diamond shield. I guess you don't need a shield to be invincible, Squint said. Diamond smiled. You're glowing, she said, and Squint was. His eyes were a brilliant white, and his limbs nearly burned with light. I don't know how, he said. It's like it's in me. A howl. That was their signal. Their plan had worked. When they were fighting, Rock had found the Empress and brought her to a hidden crevice in the rock, where she could wait until they could safely take her from the island. Mikkel flipped over the last page. Amazing, she said. I mean, there was a ton of fighting, which I guess you need in comic books, but you did great work. Thanks, I said. It almost felt magical. Mikkel reading my comic inside the plant cave. Seriously good work, she said, nodding. I cursed my stupid eye that blurred my vision and didn't let me see clearly how excited she really was. I don't know what kind of competition you're up against for the contest, but you've got to have a good chance. I'm sure, I smiled huge. I liked all the light Squint shot out, she said. I do too, I said. What about Diamond? What did you think of her? I guess she's invincible, she said, more than even she thought. Definitely, I said. She shifted on the ground and carefully set my comic sheets on top of my portfolio. You know it's not us versus them, she said, right? I looked at her for a while. Maybe, I said. And that I'm not Diamond, she said. I'm no hero. She picked up a branch off the ground. I know, I said. She's just made up. You're better. No, I'm not, she said, drawing on the ground with the stick. I couldn't even finish. Look, I said. I'm not Squint either, but I didn't do anything in real life, she said. I couldn't even finish Danny's challenges. She dug the branch into the ground. We did a lot of them, I said. What? She asked. You tried, I said. That's not good enough, she said, dropping her stick. I didn't try his challenges until it was too late. I didn't even sing in the auditorium. Okay, I said, but you did. I tried to think of how to say it. I couldn't think of the words. Rambling, crazy me couldn't think of what to say. Did you notice that in my story, Diamond always seems to be doing the same thing? What? Mikkel said. Punching people with her awesome diamond hands? She mimicked a punch. No, I said. Well, yes, but she's always... I trailed off for a second. Something caught in my throat. She's always... I started over again. Saving Squint. I was quiet for a moment, hoping that would sink in. Maybe you didn't do everything you hoped for, I said, but you did eat lunch with a lonely kid. And I couldn't help it. Tears welled up in my eyes. And Squint, she started. No, I said. Let me say this. I don't know how. You know, I ramble, but you were super brave and you showed me you and you're really cool. You should be proud of you. I like you. And because of you, I have a friend for the first time in a very long time. And I started to care for the first time in a long time. And I don't know how to say this kind of stuff. You don't have to, she said. I need to get this out. I just think you're on the right trail. You won me over. You keep doing this, you just being you and reaching out to people like you did to me. And my blurry eye didn't let me completely see her. And the tears didn't help either. But it kind of helped me speak my mind. Stop, Mikkel said. No, I said. I have one more thing to say. I'm not Danny. I'm not even close, but I'm proud of you. I took a deep breath, and I can only imagine Danny is too. She looked at me, and tears welled up in her eyes too. But I didn't finish. She said, all I know is that I have a friend for the first time in a very long time, I said. And I'm pretty sure that's your fault. I swallowed. Thanks. Thanks for being my friend back, she said. Sorry that I didn't always hang out with... No worries, I said. And if you want to try to finish the challenges, I have an idea. I already tried, she said. No, I said. What if I thought of a way you could show everyone your awesome rhyming, your ukulele playing, but you don't have to go on stage? Her face softened. I don't know what you're even saying, but I don't know if I'm willing to risk it. What if I risk it with you? I said. You're the only one I've ever shown my drawings to. Well, except my grandma and grandpa, and Gavin and the others saw them and made fun of them pretty good. So I'm kind of terrified of anyone else seeing them. I told her my idea. I didn't present it very well. I rambled more than I should have, but she didn't seem to hate it. That's a lot of work for a kid who should be resting his eyes, Mikkel said. It'd be worth it. She looked at my red eye for a moment. One friend looking at another friend in a plant cave where they had laughed and cried together. If we do this, she finally said, I think I'd want to put together a different song. So you'll try? I asked. I said if, she said. And? I asked. Maybe, she said. Look, I said, my eye might be going, but I'd really love to see you do this. Okay, that's the end of chapter 31.